What happens when two seasoned business leaders get together? They talk shop, of course. Sit back and listen in as Scott DeLong and Vince Moiso share from their experience around current issues facing executives, entrepreneurs, and their leadership teams. The CEO Podcast starts now.
Hey everybody, Vince Moiso here from the CEO Podcast, episode 24. I'm here as always with my partner in crime, Scott DeLong, and we have our special guest today, author Karolina Rzadkowolska. Did I do that right?
Yes, pretty good.
That was really good.
Yeah, appreciate you joining us today. She's up from San Diego, and we are both University of San Diego alumni, which is where I met Karolina recently in a 7x7, which is a University of San Diego's TED Talk style, where they highlight 7 alumni. So I heard her speak. It moved me, and her book is amazing. So I actually brought a copy here. For those that are watching, you can see it. And her book is called Euphoric, and really the topic that really hit me, and you said this, Karolina, and I shared this with you, is you said it's just letting go of the things that no longer serve you in life to get what you want, right? To especially if you're in some sort of pursuit of happiness, to get what you want, then there are certain things that you've got to let go of. In your case, and in your book, the focus is around alcohol, and you found that alcohol was no longer serving you in the way that you wanted for many reasons. I want to say, like I told you, I mentioned I'm a little more than halfway through your book, so I just started part 2, where you basically give your process to move on from it. But the whole first part of the book is incredible to me, because there's so many things that hit me that I don't even think about. You know, we were having a conversation about it this morning, where I was sharing what's crazy is the definition of normal for drinking today has completely shifted. I'm a culprit of that. So I'll take IPAs as the example, where, you know, we may have had a couple Coronas before, or a couple Coors Lights or something. I'm now having 2 or 3 IPAs. So I'm drinking the same amount of beer that I used to drink, except it's 7 and 8% alcohol, right? So it's a completely different feeling, right? You know, I'm buzzed after one of them, and then the way you feel from that, and the way you feel the next morning, the sleep deprivation that occurs from that, and the challenge from that, it's crazy to me. So the social norm has completely shifted. The other thing that hit me from your book that I thought was incredibly powerful is the shaming of not drinking, right? And how challenging it is in any social setting to not drink, because everybody's drinking. And so if I want to give up sugar, or if I want to go on a diet, or if I want to start working out, everybody celebrates all of those things. If I say I want to stop drinking, I'm shamed for it. You know, and it's like, whoa, Vince, you're not having a beer? What's wrong with you? What's happening? And so those things kind of hit me like a ton of bricks as I'm reading your book, because we're oblivious to it. You know, it just happens and you're totally oblivious. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about was time. Time is such a big deal for me, and you talk specifically to that in your book. And what it is, when you think about it, is when you're waking up hungover all the time, or you're waking up feeling like shit, it wastes a lot of your time, because what do you want to do? You want to stay in bed. So you end up staying in bed. You're wasting half your day or your whole day just trying to recover, hoping to get to the end of it, like you say exactly in your book. I'm paraphrasing, but said you're just hoping to get to the end of that day so you can sleep again and not drink that night and wake up feeling normal that second day. What I love about the topic of just letting go of those things that no longer serve you is it's really plug and play. You talk about alcohol, and I think we could be talking about anything in somebody's life that is no longer serving them. So with that intro, let's step back for 1 second, and why don't you spend a few minutes just to introduce yourself, tell everybody who you are, and how you got to this point of writing Euphoric.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for really giving a clear picture on the ways that things are normalized, and yet we often don't give ourselves permission to question them. And this happens in so many functions in our society. But basically today, I'm living what I would call my dream lifestyle. I'm fulfilling some of my wildest dreams. I'm going to live in Europe this summer. I have a book. I'm leading my dream business. And it was not that long ago, let's say 5 years ago, that I was completely stuck in life. And everything 5 years ago was perfectly okay. I had a good marriage. I was very healthy. I worked out. I ate green vegetables, all those things. I had a middle management position. But really, I didn't have fulfillment in my life, and I didn't really have some purpose. And so what ended up happening is I kind of adopted, the cultural norm of drinking, like we all have. And that was the highlight. That was what I looked forward to. It was like, cannot wait for Friday, cannot wait. I literally only drank on the weekend. So it was always like, let's just go as fast as we can through that week to get to the weekend to get the nice reward. And I'd wake up every Monday morning feeling horrible, tired, ashamed, gross, all these things. And yet I wanted to change so badly. It was this intuitive voice that was like, Karolina, you are made for more than this. And yet I didn't listen to that voice, not for a long time, because of that social expectation you talked about.
Yep.
If I don't drink, will people think I had a huge problem? Will they think I was literally hiding vodka at work? Something like crazy like that. Will they think, that I'm boring or not fun? There are all these different assumptions we put on someone. And so I had to find myself in a place to let go of all that stuff and just try it. Because basically at that point in my life, ever since I was an 18-year-old, I drank every weekend. I had no idea what my natural moods, sleep cycles, energy levels, productivity, ambition really was. I was handicapped all the time. And so I took a break. And really my book is very experimental. It's really approachable. It's really meant for anyone. It's not for a severe sobriety recovery kind of solution for someone. It's really meant for the general public to just experiment. Well, what happens if we do take a break from alcohol? We allow your normal, natural energy levels to rise, your sleep rebalances, your sense of motivation, inspiration goes up. What kind of person will you release into the world then? And then you get to compare. Which one do I like better? Which one do I want to continue following? And you have the autonomy to choose, right? So it's not even about quitting forever or never drinking again. It's giving yourself the option to really live life a little differently and see what you're capable of. And I'll tell you, all of the health benefits, all of the mindful benefits were amazing. But what it really did is it kicked up my deeper knowing of what I wanted most in this planet, and then the ambition to go after it. I launched a business. I quit my day job. I wrote this book. It's been published by the biggest publisher in the United States that published Mark Twain and Emily Bronte, right? Like, this is legacy in the making. I travel whenever I want. I'm a freedom entrepreneur, you could say. And all of this used to just be pipe dreams, because as long as alcohol was that handicapped and I would break promises to myself around it, or just, it was always this negative boot on me, I really didn't believe any of the other dreams were possible either. So I kind of gave up a long time ago. And so this was the catalyst I needed to really seize this one and only life I'll ever have and go for it.
So I like the outcomes. Here's my vision. This is what I plan on doing. Let's see what it looks like. And these outcomes have been amazing. I kind of want to go back to the process, though, right? You make a decision one morning and say, I'm going to try this lifestyle. I'm going to stop doing that. How does that work? I'm going to assume you weren't dependent upon alcohol, but it was just lifestyle kind of stuff. So what do you do to yourself? What do you say to yourself? How do you make that decision, and what happens next?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. And with alcohol, it's so challenging because there's actually studies that show that most drinkers, at least the majority of them, actually want to drink less or not at all, which when you really think of it in a common sense way, like alcohol causes headaches, alcohol fragments your sleep. Like biologically, physically, alcohol does not really suit a human body to its best.
Yeah.
So it's more than common sense to recognize people want to drink less or not at all, but yet somehow we don't really talk about that. And a lot of times when we do want to make a change, we just focus on the habit. And we're like,
when
okay,
it's too easy not stop too, right?
Exactly, right?
Because you show up and there's a beer and you have a beer, or whatever it's going to be.
The social, right?
Yeah.
Those events were always the thing that stopped me. And when we're so focused on habit change, we're just like, okay, let me just not put this liquid up to my lips. And it's like, that's where we get stuck with willpower. What I really teach with my clients and in my book is let's look at the beliefs and the mindset behind why we've come to believe alcohol is a benefit in our lives. These are very deeply subconscious. You pick these up from your parents, you pick these up from movies, you pick these up from James Bond, you pick these up from Sex and the City. I mean, alcohol has been glamorized
your friends
so
in high
much.
school.
Just your friends, your
Right.
environment.
Exactly.
Yeah, no
I mean,
question.
and what
You're
do you
highly
get?
influenced.
Even from like your friends in high school, you get this promise of, when I drink, I will be an adult. When I drink, I will be independent. When I drink, I will be a rebel. These things are all associated with alcohol in our minds, even when we're 40, 50, 60 years old. They somehow have come to this illusion, these associations that really, as just a fermented beverage in a glass, alcohol does not carry. We as a society put all that onto alcohol.
Yeah.
So until we can get into those subconscious beliefs of maybe it gives me comfort, maybe it's the one thing I need to relax at the end of the day. Well, let me tell you, alcohol actually releases stress hormones in your body. It ups your levels of cortisol. It's not relaxing for a human body, but we believe that so fundamentally.
Well,
that
in fact, you say that in your book, and I thought that was actually one of the funnier comments, and again, something else that hits, because you hear so much, oh, I'm going to have a glass of wine to relax me, right? That's just common. Everybody says that. Yeah, you know what? When I get home, I like to wind down with a beer, right? Or a glass of whiskey or whatever. And I, I'm at a point in my life where everybody's graduated. Like, I continue to get blown away when I go to somebody's house and they're going straight for the whiskey bottle, or they're going straight for the hard liquor. Like, no one's drinking beer and wine anymore. Beer and wine is just a starter, and they're going straight for the hard alcohol. So again, as this concept of, oh, I'm just gonna, it's gonna wind me down, it's gonna relax me, it's gonna help me sleep. So you said in your book, like, the whole false concept of, I drink to help me sleep, when reality is, and I think of the number of times where I've had a drink late, and boom, that 4 to 5 hours I'm up, and I can't go back to sleep, because that I forget, there's an opposite of endorphin, just whatever. There's something that triggers adrenaline from that just pops you up in that 4 to 5 hour mark, and forget about it. And I when I read that, I thought about the number of times that has happened to me, and I went, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's why that's happening. And so, I don't. Then who wants to have a drink at 10 o'clock at night, and then you try to go to bed, and I know I'm going to pop up in 4 to 5 hours and not be able to go back to sleep.
I still want to get back to the process.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
You can't just do willpower through everything.
No. And so
what did you do? How did you process this lifestyle change?
So I did take a break initially, and it was during dry January, and that's when I was just doing the willpower thing, right?
Sure.
I did get the
30
positive
days you can do that.
benefits. I did see all that, but I didn't really change the desire level for alcohol at its core. And then I drank again in February, hated it, and so I went back to a break. And that's when I was like, okay, there's some deeper work to do here. There's some deeper unraveling to do here. And so that's when I really started immersing myself into the mindsets, the beliefs I picked up about why I started drinking. For example, I'm an introvert. I grew up really shy. I grew up foreign. I have a crazy last name.
I'm not getting that right now.
I grew up really different. And so to me, alcohol comes on the scene as a teenager, and it's this elixir that turns me into an extrovert.
Sure.
And I use it as a crutch to become more confident, to socialize. You see, again, it's not just this fermented beverage in a glass. I'm using it as a tool to amplify my confidence.
This gets me out of my shell.
But it doesn't work. I get more insecure over time. I'm worried, do I have wine stains on my teeth? Did I say something out of character? I'm literally more insecure. And I'm eroding my self-esteem, because over time I keep reaching for confidence, outsourcing outside of me instead of finding it within myself. And so it's these little beliefs. Maybe I have 20 of them. Maybe someone has 30. Maybe someone has 10. Why do you actually like to drink? Do you like the taste? Does it help you sleep? Does it help you relax? Do you feel more confident? And you actually have to scrutinize these things and ask yourself, wait a minute. Is this just an assumption I picked up a long time ago and never asked myself again? Because when I really think about it, it doesn't help me sleep. I can't sleep. Does it really make me more confident?
So you had a checklist of assumptions.
And I turned them, debunked each and every one of them until subconsciously I did not desire alcohol anymore. I have no desire. It's not I can't drink. It's meaningless to me. You couldn't pay me to smoke a cigarette today, right? I used to smoke in college. It's the same kind of feeling. Like, it just doesn't hold that same meaning for me anymore. I can drink as much as I want. I just choose not to drink I don't want to, right?
There's no value in this for you. Therefore, why bother?
Yes. And this was a process, though. This isn't an overnight switch, right? This is what I teach over time with clients, with my book. But it's worth it because it's kind of this freedom that you have over something not controlling you, that you don't like to control you, that you don't want to keep going for, even though consciously you're like, oh, I wish I was drinking less.
Scott, what have you let go of? So what in your life has not served you that you let go of and I'm curious to hear, because I know you're jumping in on process. I agree with you.
Yep.
I mean, I don't care whether it's alcohol or whatever it is. It just doesn't happen, right? There's some sort of process that got you there.
So for me, there's going to be a couple things. There's going to be, on a micro sense, I used to drive a lot on the freeways, and this is a little thing. This isn't a big, major life thing, but there's actually a process behind it. That's why I wanted to get there, is in traffic in LA, I'd find myself biting my nails. And I couldn't stop. I just didn't stop because it was just an unconscious thing that I just bite my nails because I was nervous or whatever from the traffic. And I actually did aversion therapy, and extreme aversion therapy for me because I'm kind of an extreme guy. So what I did is I took a time. I remember the old Schick method where you put a rubber band on, and every time you did something, it'll snap yourself to make yourself aware. And great, awareness is wonderful. You need to have that. But for me, it needed more. So I actually, and this is going to look weird, and I'll probably even do it, but I actually did this. Every time I put my hand up to my mouth, I went just like that, slapped the crap out of myself. Because not only did I need
You are extreme.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Not only
Thank you
did
for
I
letting
need
us know
the
that.
awareness, I needed the pain to go with it. My belief is we can change behaviors, but if you want to change personality, pain is probably the only thing that does that. Internal pain usually, not slapping yourself. So that was on the micro sense, how I made some small changes, a small change. But the thing I think that I gave up...
Maybe it's an identity shift too, like the way you used to think of yourself versus the way you think of yourself
Well,
today.
can I just interject for 1 second for our listeners to clarify? We are by no means advocating
Don't slap yourself on
physical
the freeway.
self-pain to get rid of something.
Only
So-
works on me, right? And it did, though, right? It made me aware, and I felt the sting, right? So I stopped biting my nails. So the other thing that I've really worked hard on in the last 10, 12 years of getting rid of is anger. I think that was my vice, and I'm not a grudge holder. I don't stay angry long. I can't be mad at you forever, but my anger would come quick. Back in sports, things would happen. Umpire make a bad call, things like that. I'd react, right? And so I had to teach myself, and this checklist thing that you're talking about makes sense to me because the one question I had to ask myself constantly is, to be your best self, would you prefer to act upon things or react to them? And I know that I don't want to react anymore. So I did a lot of mindfulness kind of exercises to get myself in a spot when something came up that I would be able to go into a zone, and breath work happened to be one of them. And this only worked because I did a lot of practice. But today, if I get angry, if something triggers me, I can take one deep breath and it's gone. I can let it go because I did the work. And when I say did the work, practice that breath work over and over and over every day, multiple times a day, to get that feeling. And so for me right now, I still need that technique because things still get me mad, right?
Well, so here's what I hear in that, and Karolina, I'm interested to get your take on this. Is it takes practice, right? So, well, one, it takes work to get to a point where you can just let go of something, right? And it's not just going to happen. You can't will it to be. It's going to take work, whether it's creating that checklist to start down a path, beginning with the end in mind so that you're motivated for some end result, right? It can be a motivator. And then ultimately what I'm hearing from you is finding a technique that gets you to a point that you can let go of that thing that's no longer serving you, and it takes practice. So one of the things I'm curious about, Karolina, with you too is how do you keep yourself in this state?
There you go.
Absolutely. So I like the idea of a challenge, and that's why I think this idea of a break was so appealing to me, because I'm not embarking on this forever. I mean, the brain, I think, hates the word forever. It wants to rebel right away. Like, what? No, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so even though at first I wasn't through the process, right? Like, I like the model of unconscious competence, competent competence, all these kinds of things where you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
You know you need to change, but you don't know how.
Right.
You change, but it takes a lot of conscious effort. And then you changed and it's unconscious, right? So that is a whole process. And while I was working through that, which took time, I resolved to really commit myself to a time goal with this break from alcohol, so that it was really bound by something. I wasn't, forever, this is going to take, as long as I live, but really just like, hey, I can do this for this short of period of time. If the old pattern wants to resurface, it's not like you're telling it, no, you're never allowed out again. You can come back in 30 days. Don't worry, right?
So do you renew your lease then and say, I'm going to do this again?
I don't, because I've already gone to the end.
Do we expend the time?
I've gone to the end, like where you are with anger, where it's such a natural, just a habitual part of your day, that it's this unconscious competence now. But before, it was really driven by this time goal. And that's why in my book, I recommend people take a 2-month break, because it will change how you do alcohol, right? And, wherever you need to start is amazing, because I used to just take a few days off here and there, right? Or a week off. And it was almost as if I was in that willpower mindset still, but I was also building a muscle. I was getting more comfortable with a Friday night without drinking, right? I had to practice that a little
Those
over
first
and
few
over
Friday
again.
nights were stressful?
I was just say that I felt that I wasn't getting some kind of treat, right? It was this like alcohol was the reward, right? And I wasn't getting that. And that's why I really work with, alcohol really what it does is it changes the state of our brain. But what I really believe, especially your example with breath work, is we are actually so powerful that we can change the state of our brain on our own. We can do breath work, we can exercise, we can focus on positive memories or future dreams. Like, we have so much power to change our states.
Yeah.
And so it's not really ever the drink I think I was looking for, or I think anyone's looking for. It's actually the feeling they believe they can get from it. And if you know what that feeling is, and then you can recreate it yourself, you have all the power. And the feeling is different, right? Sometimes you just want to unwind. Guess what? A lot of times people think that alcohol gives them relaxation because it's finally them themselves giving themselves the permission to relax. So they did this study once where they put brain nodes on people who sat down at a bar or restaurant, and their brains were just totally chaotic. The waves were just really stressed out. And then everyone ordered a drink. And all of a sudden, their brain waves relaxed. But here's the caveat. Nobody actually drank the drink yet. They just ordered it, right? So
Knew it was coming.
As if you sit down, you come home from work, and you're like, I don't have to work anymore. The whiskey's out. It's time to relax, right?
You don't need the drink to create that.
And so in some ways it's that, but in other ways we use alcohol for different feelings. I want to have fun. I want to have something exciting happen. I want a little, shake things up a bit. Let's go out on the town tonight. That's a totally different feeling than wanting to unwind.
Or the crutch that you said earlier, changing an introvert to an extrovert.
Yes,
and I need alcohol in order to do that.
So there's all these different ones, right? But once you can really find how to meet your needs on your own, there you have the power.
So I just had something interesting happen. Went to one of our previous guests, Nina Venderella, put me on what she called the Candida Diet, which was nothing. You can't eat anything, vegetables pretty much, and a little bit of protein. And she wanted me to do 28 days of that. She goes, "You're going to hate me and hate this," and I actually thought about it, and I did. But then every time I had that chicken breast with whatever the broccoli that I ate, I was satisfied after that. So it wasn't the food that I was craving, but it was the thought of the meal. It's kind of what you were talking about, I think. And get past that thought of the meal. A friend of mine says, so after this 28 days, how'd you feel? I said, I felt like I wanted a pizza. That's how I felt. So I didn't get through the brainwaves piece. But the bland food that she was providing me actually satisfied me. I wasn't after the fact, but this pre-thought process, the brainwaves going like this that you're talking about, knowing that it's coming settles you down. For me, knowing that bland chicken was coming made my brain go nuts. However, once I ate it, I settled down. It's interesting how that works.
So much psychology to what we're talking about. It's incredible. You know what came to mind for me, and I was at CrossFit San Clemente. I work out there several days a week, and this morning we were talking about that. And one of the things I was discussing around alcohol is CrossFit has become more important to me than alcohol. And so what's interesting about that is that when I know I'm going to work out the next morning, I don't drink alcohol the night before.
Yeah.
And I'm very intentional about that because I need to be prepared to go do a CrossFit workout, which is very intense for a short amount of time. And I have been to a CrossFit workout after a night of drinking, and it's horrible. Like, it is horrible. And so I got that feeling once and never wanted it again. And CrossFit became more important to me. Actually, over the last 5 years, it's radically reduced. While I haven't totally given up alcohol, it's radically reduced the amount of my alcohol intake. So I go weeks at a time without drinking a drop of alcohol. and it's intentional because other things have become more important. So to your point, it is finding those things that become more important to you than alcohol or whatever it is that you want to let go of. That has been a driver for me to reduce my alcohol consumption.
So what about positive vices? For instance, if I'm the guy that says I'm going to come home and have a couple cocktails to relax, replacement for that? Do I start thinking of what else can I do to relax rather than that? I mean, is that how that works?
Absolutely. And so even the simplest thing is like there's this huge burgeoning market of alcohol-free drinks these days that just didn't exist 5 years ago. There's any alcohol-free craft beer you want, stout, peanut butter this, IPA hazy, whatever, right? They all exist and they're all really good. There's alcohol-free wines, spirits, adaptogen drinks, nootropic drinks, the health tonics you'll find at the store. And so when you find a drink you love, it's incredible how really we were just looking to be treated, have something special, that moment of relaxation, this ritual really we're doing.
Or
in
even
our
the
lives,
social
right?
stigma.
Exactly,
Have
right?
something with you.
And so it's almost like the placebo effect. I mean, I can hang out with my friends and literally feel buzzed after hanging out with them. It wasn't the alcohol that did that, right? It's literally the environment,
energy from the people.
energy, and just having feeling like I'm having a great time or a treat or whatever it is that we're looking to meet.
It's incredibly difficult. I found, so I was actually at an event. I was on campus at Ph.D. yesterday, and it was a celebratory event. It was a great event, and I loved, humbled that I was even invited to it. And I just got a glass of Pellegrino, right? And I'm drinking my Pellegrino, and 3 different times within the 90 minutes of this event, I'm asked, "You want a drink? You sure you don't want a drink? Why aren't you having a drink?" Like it kind of blew my mind because I'm thinking about this today, thinking about you, and I'm thinking about the topic, your book, everything. And that's not why I got a Pellegrino. It was natural for me. I didn't want to drink. It was, I don't know, 4:30 in the afternoon. I just have a Pellegrino, right? What's wrong with that? But the social pressure is incredible when you're not drinking.
So I've got a friend who stopped drinking years ago, and he does a lot of social events, but he orders a club soda with a little bit of cranberry juice in it to make it look like, and then makes the swizzle stick go in there so people don't ask him those questions. He does that on purpose to keep from the social pressure.
Today, right now, I'm actually proud. Like, I loved having my alcohol-free drinks. I want people to ask me about them because something you said earlier was like really aligning your life to your values, right? And there was a time and a place and an identity that you carried when you were younger, and there was nothing wrong with that, but it's not aligned to what you're becoming today.
Yeah.
And so as you're doing that too, like what I really think about ultimately is I don't care about alcohol. I don't care what people drink at the end of the day. I think that this transformation awakens you to your greater purpose, and that's the work I really do with women, right? We remove the one thing that doesn't serve them so that we can have space for what they really want. And I think it's almost like a spiritual metaphor because guess what you're going to have to deal with? All the limiting beliefs and stories you tell yourself, all the pressures from society, and really learning how to have courage, right? How to have courage, how to be a rebel, how to not worry about fitting in that moment. And guess what all those traits help you to do? Become a leader, become a CEO, become an entrepreneur. It's this microcosm of a way to develop these skills that literally overspill into other areas of your life. I would have never had the confidence to launch my business, quit my job, write this book, if I didn't have to practice that through becoming a non-drinker.
What's interesting to me is earlier you talked about being a rebel. Actually being a rebel, but with a positive outcome, right? You're rebelling against that social pressures and feeling proud of yourself for doing that.
Yes.
That's
and hopefully
feeling pride.
Changing other people's worldviews a little too. Like, oh wait, because if I went to a party 6 years ago and saw someone not drinking and having fun, I would have been like, wait a minute, you're allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even think that was allowed here.
Yeah.
And so I think we need to be the generation that changes culture for our future generation. Who wants our kids to grow up with that same social pressure? It's ridiculous.
To me, the most simple takeaway in all of this is time. And I think it's the number one thing. Look, it's not that hard to make money. It's not that hard to get things that you want. What you're never going to get back is time. And we have a finite amount of it. And I just think when I hear about all the things that you've done, originally when you were younger, and I think it's true of many people that I know personally right now, alcohol controls them and consumes a tremendous amount of time. And I'm talking about just the social part of it. let alone the time waster of having to recover the next day, or how that takes them away from their business, how many times they're calling in sick. They're not doing the things that they want to do physically as a result of drinking too much. I could go on and on and on, and it all comes back to time. And what I've said, so I get this, everybody asks me, Vince, I don't know how you have so much time. But it's such a funny question. It's the dumbest question I get from anybody, because I have the exact same amount of time as you do. And the reality is that I haven't made alcohol, I haven't made parties and events, this type of thing. I haven't made that my life. I have more time than you, or binge watching Netflix in a weekend or whatever that is. And I'm not judging that. I'm simply saying I choose to do what I choose to do with my time. And really, as I read your book, Karolina, that's what you did. You chose your life, you chose time, you chose other things than allowing alcohol and that social part of what alcohol brings to your life to not run your life. And to me, like, that was just that's the monster, and I wanted to address that.
So here's my takeaway from what I'm getting here is I think it's twofold. I think the awareness of what it is that you want, and the things that are stepping in your way, right? That are blocking you from that. And then, Vince, you mentioned it, the practice. It takes practice.
Yeah.
I don't care if you're picking up a golf club for the first time, or not drinking for the first time, or not getting angry for the first time. We need to practice that until it becomes part of the normal behavior. Your normal behavior. It may not be society's normal behavior, but your normal behavior. So I think awareness of what it is that you want, find out what's blocking, and then practice alternatives to that thing that's blocking it.
Karolina, give our listeners just a nugget of, start doing this tomorrow, or start doing that tomorrow. What get them on a path to figuring out what it is they may want to let go of in their life that's no longer serving them.
Absolutely, and obviously this can come from many angles, but I like to think that we have really deeper dreams inside of us, and these things I think are actually a gift given to us from something outside of us, and that it is part of our destiny to go for them. Yet as we grow up, we come with so many limitations on what's possible, am I good enough, and we really have these caps on our lives, and even maybe we put them ourselves. Maybe alcohol is a self-defense mechanism so that you don't really have to try 100% and fear the failure that might happen with that, right?
Yeah.
But when you think that anything could be possible, and like money is not an issue, time is not an issue, literally what is the most ideal life that you could live? We have this one life here on this planet. Really let yourself picture that. How far away are you from that? And what is really stopping you from that? And if it is, if this has been intriguing to you and you do recognize that maybe it's a pattern around drinking, maybe it's just not even drinking's a problem, but it's the same old comfort zone. You're never taking risks. You're never leaving it. You're never trying something new. You're always back on the Friday night with the alcohol, right? I think you should lean into that. And does that mean you have to quit forever? Absolutely not. I think the first step of leaning in is actually just getting more aware and more informed. Read a book, listen to a podcast. There's this huge alcohol-free movement going on right now where people are deciding it does not serve their best selves, and there's a lot of literature out there on it. I think some of the most incredible movers and shakers on our planet, a lot of them don't drink, right? So there's a lot of these role models to see, how did you get there? How did Tony Robbins get there, right? How did Brene Brown or Gabby Bernstein or Deepak Chopra get there? The last two presidents, whichever side you fall on, they both don't drink, right? There's something in common there. And I think being able to just lean into it and really look at it not as just, oh, this is a habit everyone does, but why me? Why should I do this? I have unique dreams. I'm not just going to be okay settling for the status quo and average. Average in this country is unhealthy, unfulfilled, hates their jobs, doesn't have poor social networks. Average is really not what we're looking for in our lives, right? And if you want above average, if you want extraordinary, if you want exceptional, really looking at the thing that's stopping you and leaning into it. Once you read a book, I obviously recommend mine, Euphoric. Maybe commit to a short period without the habit or doing the mindset work, right? A month is great, 2 months will change your life, but gosh, one weekend, like what a great practice to just start training that muscle.
Here's a start.
And leaning in.
Yeah. Well, tell everybody where they can find your book, because I think after this, people are going to want to pick it up and find out more about you. So how do they find the book? How do they find you?
Awesome. So you can find Amazon, most bookstores, and retailers, but easier is just www.euphoricbook.com. And then if you're interested in, anything I had to say, my podcast, working with me, I have retreats for women if you're interested in that as well, euphoricaf.com.
Wonderful.
Yeah, well, I'd end with this. How about we start by looking in a mirror? And I think, there's got to be a path to self-discovery at some point, and it starts by recognizing what's going on, right? And having some sort of self-awareness around what's going on with you, so you can start down the path that Karolina just shared with us. Really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast today. I feel like we could easily spend another hour just talking about it, because it's just
an hour with an introvert,
right? It's such a hot topic, though, to your point, and I hope our listeners really got a piece of that. But obviously, find out more of her story in her book. I'll tell you, it's a great read. You won't be sorry on that. Check us out at the CEOpodcast.net. As always, you can find us on all the normal podcast channels. We appreciate you listening. We love your feedback. So please reach out to Scott and I and let us know what you want to hear next.
If you didn't catch our website, you can get in touch with us, scottandvince@gmail.com, or either of our own websites, and we'll get you in touch with Karolina.
Until next time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us for the CEO Podcast. Please visit us at theceopodcast.net, where you can learn more about our co-hosts and listen to past episodes. If you would like to have a discussion and dive deeper into any topic, there is also an option to contact Scott or Vince to schedule some time with them. Thanks for listening.